Hi, my name is KBritton. Today I will be discussing a 4-year-old client with a history of elopement in case study 1. This client engages in elopement to escape task or to access preferred. The client was diagnosed with ASD by his pediatrician when he was a little over 2 years old. He has been with the same ABA company since he was diagnosed. The problem behavior of concern that I will be focusing on in this case study is elopement. Elopement is operationally defined as taking 2 or more steps away from adult after hearing "come here" or "stop" or leaving a room or designated area without permission. Examples include running away from adult after instructed "do this" or "say ah." Non-examples include running in hallway and playing chase or running onto the crash mat. The client has limited vocal ability to communicate, particularly when he is escalated or when preferred items are out of sight. The client is unable to appropriately request a break or terminate an aversive. The client has a history of eloping out the front door towards water and does not follow safety instructions, including "stop" or "come here" reliably. So here we have the negative and positive reinforcement contingencies. Elopement maintained by escape from presentation of task. We present task and then the client immediately turns away from adult and elopes. Examples of tasks presented that evoke elopement. Examples of tasks presented that evoked elopement include imitation, echoics, one-step instructions, when presented with non-preferred toys or activities. Elopement was also maintained by escape from unfamiliar adults and basic human interaction. When unfamiliar adults approach the client, he turns and runs away. When making eye contact with others, he turns and runs away. He also engages in elopement when physically prompted. Positive reinforcement maintained by gaining access to preferred items or activities of his choice. The assessment we conducted was a functional behavior assessment, FBA. We used this assessment to determine the function of the behavior. ABC paper data was collected through direct client observation within sessions. ABC data is antecedent, behavior, and consequence. We get a clear picture of what happened before the behavioral event that occurred and what happened after. We can identify specific events that led to the problem behavior. We can identify specific events that may be reinforcing the problem behavior as well by looking at the consequence. Being in the clinic allowed for greater experimental control of variables related to the environment. The intervention put in place was functional communication training, FCT. This intervention was chosen to teach an appropriate replacement to eloping when presented with task. The intervention is as follows. Task is presented, the client engages in problem behavior, therapist prevents client from eloping, therapist prompts vocal "go." Therapist provides behavior-specific verbal praise and allows 1-minute access to a break. After the 1-minute break, therapist revisits task or activity for client to follow through with the demand. A motivating operation is an environmental variable that alters the reinforcing or punishing effectiveness of a stimulus. The client has 3 main reinforcers, including chase, videos, and balls. These activities or items act as establishing operations for the client. An establishing operation, EO, is a motivating operation that increases the value of a reinforcer and increases the frequency and behavior that provides access to the reinforcer. The reinforcers increased effectiveness of intervention. The preferred reinforcers were withheld, and the client was only given access to them during break time to increase their value. For the client to meet the contingencies quickly, we reinforced the appropriate request on an FR1 fixed ratio initially. A dense schedule of continuous reinforcement is initially recommended to produce rapid behavior change. Positive reinforcement, behavior-specific praise, and 1-minute break was provided after each appropriate request. It did not matter if the request was prompted or independent, he received the positive reinforcement either way at first. Once the client was requesting independently and we saw a decrease in elopement, we began to fade reinforcement. Fading reinforcement is important because we want learners to want to do things without expecting something for every response. The schedule should be thin to an intermittent one once an individual is engaging in high levels of correct independent responses. We faded the schedule of reinforcement to a variable ratio. Reinforcement was provided on an average number of responses. The client currently only receives services in the clinic setting. We do not currently go in home with the client. However, that is a future goal. He receives ABA therapy in one-on-one direct sessions with a set team of 4 RBTs. To decrease dependency on prompts, prompt fading was utilized, most to least to most. We utilized a gesture in the direction he wanted to go as a prompt, gesture with partial vocal model G, and gesture with vocal model go. Once the client mastered this, we only provided reinforcement when 2 things happened. No problem behavior occurred, and the client made an independent request. The client showed independence in requesting escape from task appropriately and problem behavior decreased. Elopement was high frequency at baseline. Following the intervention, elopement decreased rapidly along with more independent and appropriate requests to escape task. At the beginning of the intervention, we saw a spike in elopement and aggression. This occurred when we prevented the client from eloping prior to prompting the vocal. Once he met the contingencies a few times, aggression and elopement significantly decreased. We were more successful in prompting the vocal prior to problem behavior. The client was also out sick for 3 days during implementation of the intervention. FCT stopped during the 3 days the client was not in clinic. And here's my references. Thank you.